Hey everyone, Kristen here. Did you know that Our Path has a YouTube channel? It's true, we do. And we need you to do us a huge favor, and that is to run on over to YouTube and subscribe to the Our Path YouTube page. Over the next several months, we're hoping to release all of the episodes in the Our Voices podcast catalog, in no particular order. There will be some fan favorites, some oldies but goodies, some controversial episodes, some feel-good episodes, and some very healing episodes. So if you've missed a few episodes, we hope you'll keep checking back on our YouTube channel and catch up there. By subscribing and listening to Our Voices on YouTube, you help support this podcast and Our Path. And as always, we thank you for your support in whatever way you're able to give it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Our Voices, the podcast for straight partners and partners of trans people by Our Path. I'm your host, Kristen Kelbley. Our guest today is Tom Jones. Tom was married to a woman for 22 years and hid in a deep closet in denial. His wife was aware of his same-sex attraction early on, but not the depth of it. A positive HIV status and an acute addiction to crystal meth deeply impacted their marriage and lives, resulting in divorce. His wife was diagnosed with cancer and passed away just 2 years following their divorce, requiring Tom to raise their 2 daughters. Although close at the end of his wife's life, Tom, now 68, feels they never had a chance to truly mend. Welcome to the podcast, Tom. It's a pleasure to have you today.
Glad to be here.
First of all, Tom, we're using a pseudonym, and I wanted to just ask, does it have anything to do with Tom Jones, the performer, or Tom Jones, the book?
Let's leave it alone at that.
Good response. Good response. And just so our audience knows, the reason why you're on the show today is because you are a member of one of our social media groups, the Our Path Friends and Family group on Facebook. And that is a public group that anyone can join, whether you're a parent of a straight spouse or a former spouse of a straight spouse. And you had posted something, I honestly can't even really remember what it was, but what struck me was the empathy that you had for straight partners in your comments. And that's when I reached out to you and said, hey, I think this could be a really healing episode for our listeners, which is why we're calling it The Apology You Needed But Never Got. And so I wanted to go ahead and invite you to start telling your story. We got a little bit of a sort of distillation of it in the intro there in your bio. But why don't you go ahead and tell us when you first became aware of your same-sex attraction?
Probably in high school, maybe. My life was so complete in so many other ways, but maybe in high school, especially the locker room. And I was so wrapped up in my church life, my high school life, and I had so many great other male friends that we did things with and camping and everything. And, sex just wasn't a forefront in my head.
So did you connect it? And this would have been, so you're 68 now, so this would have been what, in the 70s, kind of? 60s,
Yeah,
70s?
70s.
Yeah. And so did you connect this attraction with being gay, or did you just kind of mark it and go, okay, I've got all this other great stuff going on, and not really make a connection to what that necessarily meant for your life?
I didn't really register to do anything with it until, at least even through college.
And so when did you meet your former wife? How did you meet her?
A couple of years after college, she went to the same school I did, but I already graduated when she started.
Okay. So, and just before that, you had said that you didn't really do anything about your same-sex attraction after college. So
Yeah.
Where was that in the timing of meeting the wife and getting married?
I had explored a little bit at that point in the game, but it was satisfying, but it was distasteful for me. It wasn't something that I wanted to concentrate, and I was questioning myself, why am I so excited about this? And I just really just buried it. I didn't want to even accept the fact that I was even involved.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to know.
Well, sorry, go ahead and finish your
No, no,
thought.
no, no, I'm finished.
Well, so this is the question that, every straight spouse wants to ask, which is, did you tell your wife before you got married, or did you bury it so deep that it just didn't even become a consideration to tell her?
Um, let me go back to this. I mean, I think because of my heavy religious background, where I was in all of this, and denial. Honestly, I thought, and you know what? I was also raised, nobody has sex until marriage. Here I am playing around with men, but, never with women. And I'm sure there's part of me that thought about, this is all going to be, all changed once I get married and everything is normal. It was something that I believed I had the power to say no to and walk away from and go live a normal life.
I don't think you're the first person to ever articulate that idea that marriage will fix it, or marriage will fix me, or once I'm married, this will all go away. Um, okay, so you meet your wife after college, and I assume, can you describe how you felt for her? Did you fall in love with her, or did you kind of meet her and go, she seems like a good
She and I became
prospect?
best friends. I mean, she was out there playing around with all of my friends.
Okay.
Yeah, she was. And, then I was the one she would always come to, be her crying pit of, oh, you can't believe what I did last weekend. And, it just, I was always there for her. We became best of friends. And, it was just so comfortable together that we even discussed, boy, it would be great if we could just spend the rest of our lives together. And she had lost her father when she was 13 years old. And, here I am, a control freak, um, caregiver kind of guy. And, it was a perfect match of pragmatics. She was looking for a daddy and I was looking for somebody to take care of. So, and looking back on 24 years of marriage with her, I'm privileged to be married to my best friend for all those years.
Did you, and feel free not to answer this question, but was sexual attraction a piece of it, or was it just we're companionate, we're best friends, and we both recognize that?
That was the most important part of it right there.
Yeah. For both of you, would you say?
Yeah, I really believe that. Yes, I really believe that. I think, looking back on it now, I mean, if we really had a sexual attraction for each other, both of us would be trying to push the other one up a wall. We
Yeah.
never did that.
Yeah,
No,
right.
honestly,
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't bodily.
no, it wasn't. And
Yeah.
what a crime that is.
Yeah, can you say more about that?
Because now when I am talking to other people going through this, and it's this marriage is over, everybody's looking for the next, and I'm like, what's the safety guards here, and what do I do? And I'm all for, get naked and see how it works and make sure you're sold on it. I am.
Yeah, try before you buy.
Yeah, try before you buy, make sure it's just ravenous. I mean, God made us sexual beings. We're not just a shopping list of things to do. And sexual pleasure is part of His plan for our lives. But
I 1000% agree with
but the
you.
church
Yeah.
says, "Oh, don't do anything. You're not supposed to do anything. It's all come natural after you walk down the aisle." Well, you know what? It was a lot of work. It was a
Can you
lot of
say
work for me.
what sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
Do you mind saying a little bit about your faith background or your church background? Was it a particular denomination, or?
Protestant, but you know what? I'm glad for the foundations of my faith that my family put into me, and what I bought onto years ago, because that foundation of faith for me rescued me when it was time after I hit rock bottom. So, I mean, yeah, I'm one of those born again Christian gay guys. Yeah.
I mean, there's a is that an oxymoron or a contradiction in terms kind of
No,
thing?
it's just, you know what? I say it that way because you know, I'm pretty strong in my faith, and it just kind of wakes up. It covers the blanket when I say that.
Mm-hmm, got it.
So, but the overall organized religion was making sure everybody knew here are the standards and here's the program you're going to live by. That's it. If you want to live a normal life, or you want to be, we didn't discuss about what's going on in your life, and tell me about what you want to do, and who do you like, and no, I mean, everything back then in the 60s and 70s was, here's your guidebook, and here's how you get through life. And I wasn't one of those rebels.
Was your wife a part of the same religious community slash
Yeah,
faith? So she
yeah.
had those same
Hmm.
sort of, even though she was fooling around with all your friends.
Yeah, she was exploring her sexuality
Yeah,
in college.
great.
Trust me.
Yeah, good for
I
her.
mean, I was
Yeah.
exploring mine with in back rooms.
So, okay, so thank you for the background and context, the origin story, if you will. So, you get married, you're in a companionate marriage, essentially. What starts to happen in the marriage?
I don't know what you mean by that.
When did your same sex attraction start to
When did it all revive itself after the honeymoon?
right, and at what point were kids a part of the equation? Like, what was kind of the timeline?
Um, we had moved to another part of the country a couple years into our marriage, where her family lived, and I really put everything on hold, and then I guess we wanted to start a family. So, which was, an a absolute that was horrible for me, because I was kind of pressed into service. Um,
What do you mean pressed into service?
because it was a lot of work to get her pregnant, and
Oh, right.
yeah,
You're
I
not
mean,
talking about fatherhood, you're talking about just the actual
no, I'm
conception
talking about
part.
the sex. I'm talking about
Yeah,
getting pregnant stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, I mean, I get calls in the office. I'm ovulating. Come home.
Right.
Okay,
And then it's like, "Oh,
great.
shit."
This is all
Yeah,
mechanical shit. Yeah,
yeah. Mhm.
but shortly after my first daughter was born, it was found out that I was HIV positive.
Mm.
Hmm.
Okay, can we take a moment on that? So
Yeah.
that means that during this period of time, you also would have been with men, and w does it okay, I gotta ask, did you was your wife exposed?
I don't know, but she was negative. She was negative, and my daughter was negative. So, I mean, there are cases of that the disease doesn't carry through. I don't really believe that, but there's cases of it. I had had blood transfusions a couple years before, because I was one of the first Lyme disease people in the country. And yeah, I could have played with somebody that had it. You know what? I don't know. I can't give you the forensics on that.
Sure. So it could have
That
been from
seems
the
it seems to be
transfusion, yeah.
all. It seems to be all that anybody that were finding the information for me. That's all they wanted to know. They didn't want to know about the disease. They wanted to know how I got it, so they had something to point at.
Well, yeah, it was at the time where, um, the fear of the disease was quite exponential, and it was considered the gay plague at the time.
Well, no, I mean, everybody just want to. If you find out you're HIV positive, oh my goodness, you really sin bad, and you're just a piece of trash. And everybody forgot. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm dying. Does anybody care about that? But it was. I felt horrible at that point. I'm going, great. Look, before we found out that my wife and my daughter were negative, I was overwhelmed with, look what I did. I killed my family.
I wanna pause there for just a moment because I do wanna come back to that, but, so I'm assuming at some point you had to divulge to your wife that you were positive because she had to get tested and your daughter had to get tested.
Hmm.
So what was that conversation like?
Actually, we got tested because my wife had thrush in her mouth and they wanted to test for HIV. And I said, I'll go have a test with you.
Okay. And that's when you found out you were
That's when we
positive.
found out she was negative. I was positive.
What was your okay, since the origin of that could have been obviously you were active with men at the time, but it also could have been from blood transfusion. How did you explain that to your wife, and did she look at you and
I
go,
told her
"How did you
flat
get this?"
out that I played around with guys, and
Okay.
that's probably where I got it.
Okay, so was this the first she was hearing of your same-sex attraction? Or how did that was
Yes,
it a
probably.
shock to
Yeah.
her? Okay.
No,
How did she
probably.
respond? Yeah. How did she respond?
I don't really remember.
Mm,
I
mhm.
remember that all her family came over. They were all huddled in a room with her, consoling her and the rest of it. And I was left to sit out on the porch and deal with it.
Okay.
Nobody was including in me in the whole thing. So, but I mean, at some point in the game, right around there, moving forward, I mean, she knew about my same sex attraction. But now I had something else to deal with besides that. Now I had a deadly disease to deal with. And her reaction to that, the disease, was, you brought this onto us. It's your thing to deal with. I'm not going to be any part of it. So I was on my own with it.
Do you think, I mean, as a wife who is married to a gay man, I mean, there's a part of me that sort of has empathy for that and saying, like, you were screwing around. Um, do you feel like you can understand or or at least have an idea of where she was coming from with that?
No,
No.
no, no,
Okay.
no, no. I mean, I attribute that to knowing her intrinsically, that she is an avoider,
Mm, hmm.
um, and not really. I mean, she did that with her health. It led to her death, but
Hmm.
she was not going to be willing to hop in and say, "Okay, I'm going to be your part of your research group. We're going to help you get to live,"
Mm,
and none
hmm.
of that.
So it's more about her personality type being sort of avoiding difficult things than it was about her being angry that you had been outside of the marriage.
It was just, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
and I wasn't playing around for years because now
Mm-hmm.
I was dealing with this.
Okay. You now HIV positive. Obviously, thank goodness you are okay. You're here. Obviously treatment must have been successful for you.
I started when the new drugs came out with the new medications in 1998, and I became positive in 91. So, I mean, yeah, I'm a long term survivor. Okay. I mean, I don't know how to make it. I lost the people that I was securing as support. I was with a support group, Christian support group, actually put on by a pastor who lost his brother to AIDS. There was 30 of us, including him. I went to 29 funerals. I'm the only one who
Mm,
lived through that.
wow.
And
I think it was AZT, if I remember
I took
correctly. That was
ACT for a while and until I couldn't. Then I did DDI, DDC when that came out. I did a lot of natural therapies from Europe. Saw an, a allergist who was doing tests on something called transfer factor, where they manufacture something out of your blood, re-inject it. I was doing anything I could to stay alive. And then in 1998, I had flown for business somewhere to Atlanta and got back, and we're at a theme park, and suddenly I got a high fever and came down with the same pneumonia that killed Jim Henson from the Muppets.
mm, mm-hmm,
Went right into the hospital, went into a coma for 9 days. Everybody was already ordering a pine box. And then I woke up at 7, 9 days and with some choice words like I'm alive. So I got through that and started on the new meds that were suddenly available.
oh, got it. Okay, so timing wise, it was nick of time.
Yeah.
So then just a couple of filling in some of the holes here. So at some point you had a second child. How does this coincide? I mean, I assume if you're HIV positive at that time, does that mean all intercourse with your wife stops to protect her, or but then you also got had another daughter?
Okay. I have a second daughter. Yes, the intercourse stopped between my wife and I, and she wanted no part of safe sex at all. And she was looking for sex. So during 91 and 98, April of 98, I was coming out of the hospital with a coma, and my second daughter was born in October. September of 97, my wife had become pregnant from one of her affairs.
Ah, okay.
Okay. She had several affairs during those years. Um, and I found out about all those just about the same way she found out about me.
Okay.
So when I was not able to perform physically, sexually, she went out and got it. I don't, you know what? Looking back, I don't blame her. But, men or women are different, She had affairs and fell in love with everybody.
Mm.
Okay. That was satisfying her emotionally, but also getting her physical on. And, men aren't that way, Men go out and play around. It's like, see ya. Don't want to hear about you again.
Right.
So,
Okay, so your second daughter then was by one of her affairs. So all of that explains how the intimacy stopped between the two of you, but you still had a second child. And did you adopt the second daughter?
when she came to me on the front porch of the house, she told me she was pregnant. And it was not from the big affair, but it was another one. And she told me that she and her mother were considering having an abortion. And I really looked her dead in the eye after, I left for 3 days. I just had to go think about all this. And when I came back, I got with her and I said, you know what? We always wanted another second child. I never planned on living this long anyway. God's got a purpose here. I don't know what it is, but he's kept me alive through this. And now you're pregnant. I think we need to have the baby, and I will sign the birth certificate.
Mm-hmm.
We always wanted a second child. This is a gift.
Okay, so I have to ask a couple more clarifying questions
I'm
before we
sure.
move on. Yeah. So okay, so you've got a situation where early on you had stepped outside of the marriage to play with men. You had HIV. Your wife steps outside of the marriage for her own reasons.
Yeah.
What's your day-to-day relationship like during this time? I mean, are you functioning as co-parent couples? Are you throwing plates at each other for the
No,
infidelity or what?
no. Honestly, we were going through life like, if anybody was filming us, they would say, "Wow, this is a great episode every week."
Okay.
No, we were doing great. We're great friends. We were vacationing. We're decorating houses. I'm making a lot of money, and she's spending a lot of money, and we're just rolling along.
Okay, so now we're at the point the second daughter is arriving. So and you survive. You're on the new medications. Is she no longer stepping outside of the marriage at this point, or is she continuing to do that with kind of a hall pass from you? How's that working?
No, she wasn't having any more affairs after that.
Okay.
Not
All
at
right.
that point. No.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. So what happens then after? So now take us forward from here.
okay, so we have the second, and the first couple of years of that was just more. We're just concentrated on our family. I was managing my disease. She wasn't cheating. I wasn't cheating, but something went wrong there because things weren't going well. She was starting to spend a lot of money as retail therapy from not having the affairs. I think she was craving the physical sex part of it. I wasn't there to deliver it. The family we had wasn't good enough. It probably wasn't good enough for both of us because I started playing around again. And, I was traveling a lot in my business, making quite a bit of money. And we started having financial arguments every month because, she would rack up a credit card, get a new one, max it out. I'd cut it up. She'd go get two more. It was horrible. And, my coping mechanism was, you know what, this is never going to work. I'm just going to go have fun. So I had fun when I traveled. I'm not going to get into the details of that, but
Sure.
when you're doing business with a lot of crazy people and doing deals of all kinds of magnitude. I'm being introduced, to drugs, and anybody that gets involved, especially for me, I mean, the play around was fine, and then the guys I was playing with was here, try a little of this, it'll make it even more fun. Yes, it does. Okay. Yeah, it magnifies sex drive.
Yeah, chemsex, I believe
It's chemsex. Yeah, serious chemsex. And I went to points of depravity that I don't even want to acknowledge myself. But so I became a meth addict for 5 years. And my wife did not know what was going on. I was really good at doing meth, having sex parties, and for a couple of days on end, and even being high and go to business meetings and close $1 million deals screwed up.
Wow. Were you, so if you're an addict, and I'm not as familiar with how meth addiction works as opposed to heroin or cocaine or something like that, but I assume that you're like those other addictions, you're continually needing a fix. And so does that mean that
No,
no, it's not quite the same way. Okay.
no. I mean, the meth use was all about sex.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I wasn't doing drugs and not having sex.
Got it. So you weren't like at home at the kitchen table with the kids
No,
over dinner.
no,
Yeah. Okay.
no. But I
Yeah.
would come home coming down from it, and it was obvious something was wrong. I mean, I was angry and all the rest of it. But I mean, I think my wife was just going along with the money we had, the role playing we were doing, and really not paying attention to it all. I mean, when it all came crashing down, I remember her saying, I was almost ready to hire a private investigator and follow you.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So let's talk about the crash. What happened?
I went through one more episode with meth, and it was laced with K, and it was really bad, and I went way off the rails, and I was leaving someone's house that I was very connected on the drug part of it, and they looked at me dead in the eye and said, you'll never see me again. Don't ever come over here for this stuff. You're going to kill yourself. I don't want you to be dead in my house. And if you don't stop this, you're going to be dead. Don't ever see me again. And I walked out the door. And I came back to the house, and I was still high. And I confessed everything to her, what was going on with the drugs. We didn't talk about the sex part. It was about the drugs. And she called a friend of hers who was my best friend I work with, and they both convinced me to go to the hospital. Looking back, it's like, what do you take me to the hospital for? So you get a publicized drug test? So we went there, and I got a drug test. I came back positive for meth. And that's when all the sliding to the bottom of the barrel started.
Okay, so say more about that. What did that entail?
So the short of it is, within a month, I was basically asked to leave the house. She wanted the kids to be around me, even if I was recovering from drugs. She made sure they knew about it, and I was not part of it. And also, at that point in the game, I lost my career because of it. All the money stopped, and she filed for divorce. And honestly, she did not file divorce because of my same-sex attraction. We seemed to be living that for what? A long time.
Yeah.
And
How old were your kids at the time that she filed?
16 and 8.
16 and 8. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So she filed not
2 daughters.
Not because of your same-sex attraction, because you guys had been living with the knowledge of that.
That was the straw that broke the camel's back.
The same sex attraction or the drugs?
The drugs.
The drugs. Okay. So it was all along a house of cards that could not stand, and then the
But
drugs.
she was already seeing other people at that point in the game, and too.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
find out later that my good friend from work and her were seeing each other for quite a bit of time.
Hmm.
It was
Okay.
going on.
So she had a foot out the door too.
Oh yeah, but we had, I mean, we both had feet out the door, but we had good money, we had a nice house, we had a family, and that charade just kept going along.
Okay, so you lose everything. She files for divorce. You lose your career. She's basically said you need to leave the house, and she's not allowing you to necessarily be around the kids. Are you seeing them somewhat or not at
No,
all?
I'm in a recovery program, and during all this, no, I was not allowed to see the kids because, and you know what? And I understand why. I was coming down from, and the meth use wasn't every week. I mean, meth has a cycle of about 3 weeks. Okay, you come off a sex party, get home, in about 3 weeks more from there, and now you want to go back to the party and do more drugs. It's got a 3 week cycle on it.
So you were in a rehab program, obviously.
No, not a real
Again.
program. I was at Narcotics Anonymous meetings. I was with a counselor for a while. I didn't need any kind of medication to this. I needed to address a complete life change from everything we had to now we're starting from ground zero and hit rock bottom. And at that point in the game, I met a wonderful person who runs an organization in the city that had left the church to come to minister to HIV people and drug addicts. And if it wasn't for her and that organization, I probably wouldn't be alive today. So I walked in the door there, and on the wall is a painting by, what's his name? Blackshear. And the name of the painting is Forgiven. It's a picture of Jesus holding a very masculine man that's limp in his arms with a hammer in his hands. He's had it last of it. It's basically for people who hit the rock bottom. I still have that painting in my hallway today. So, but anyway, yeah, I mean, everything was over. Everything was over, and it took a lot longer than I ever thought to ever recover from it.
So how long would you say you were really in recovery? All of just to give people an idea.
Oh, a good year. I mean, my wife at that point in the game, and my friend at that point in the game, let's just call him Harry. They became, instant union, and my kids were living with the both of them, and I went out and found myself a damn partner, and that was 12 years of a mistake. But, I figured out, okay, now everybody knows I'm gay. I'm a drug addict. I'm recovered from that. Now, the real Tom is all over the walls. So I found myself a damn good looking guy that, even straight women would just like, wow, that's good.
I had one of those too.
Yeah. I mean, just eye candy for everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
And, so I got to have you know, my steak and eat it too for a while. But to make a long story short on that, I made a lot of mistakes in that relationship. I tried to turn him into a wife, and that was a mistake. That wasn't fair to him. He wasn't fair to me either. He definitely wasn't fair to my kids. He had a negative effect on my two daughters. The youngest one, not so much. They got along a little bit, but I turned a relationship that was, me really, now now I have my license as a gay guy. I have my gay card now, and my first partner was gay all his life, and I sold out a little bit that I shouldn't have sold out to.
So at this point then, so you're in a relationship, she's in a relationship, your kids are living with him, but now you're sober and recovered, and
Yeah,
are
with
you
some
seeing?
with beyond I'll be honest, I mean, with some fallbacks. I mean, there were some fallbacks.
Yeah, it's not a straight line trajectory.
No, it's not. Not from that drug. But I
Were
haven't touched
you
it now for, a very long time. But anyway, go ahead.
That's great. Yeah. Congratulations. Um, did you have some during this period of recovery though, and you're seeing this person, and obviously there was some interaction with your children. Uh, were you co-parenting? Were you seeing them on a regular basis?
My oldest daughter was, in senior levels of high school, and she was busy. She didn't have time to go sit with me on the weekends. Once in a blue moon, she really didn't like the partner I had. The youngest one, Mr. Dad, and she would come over. We had every other week, but I mean, she was busy too. So I mean, yeah, I had full visitation rights so long as I was, not actively using drugs.
Well, then let's kind of pivot here because I really want to talk about, what happened to your wife after divorce with the cancer, and
Hmm.
then, really why you're here today, which is, to talk about uh the amends making that maybe never really came to fruition. So what happened with your wife?
She had a couple bouts of melanoma cancer even before my second daughter was born. Um, and she had surgeries, tumors taken out. I mean, a couple years before all of of us our marriage blowing up, she had a massive surgery with a tumor pulled out of her back, some lymph nodes from under her arm pulled out. And I remember the doctor looking her dead in the eye and say, "You need to be back here every 3 months with a full body PET scan and all kinds of scans to make sure that this is not coming back." She walked out of there and never went back to see a doctor. She was a voider. She did not go back. She had ulcerative colitis years before that. The amount of times I spent in the hospital with her, taking care of her. And I was the one who was the one who did all the research and found everybody. But we were coming to the end of our lives, and when we blew up, I wasn't there to tell her, "You need to go to the doctor and check this stuff out." 2 years after that, she was out with, let's just say Harry again, um, out for a weekend, and it was noticed that she had these huge bumps all over her body. The next week, saw an oncologist. She had stage 4 melanoma cancer, and they give her 2 months to live. And this is 2 years after our divorce. So she didn't have insurance either. That's it. She had no health insurance. But MD Anderson took her on, and they kept her alive for 2 more years. And her boyfriend at the time, Harry, we and I, who had hated each other, we came together as part of being her cancer warriors. So our friendship healed, and we basically worked together for her well-being through the cancer, trying to keep her alive. So that was a rough 2 years. So and her family was very angry with me. I had failed everything, and they all lived 5 miles away, and I really wasn't allowed to get too close to the situation. They really just drew up a wall there. Um, but as the last year she was with the cancer, I remember after the last brain surgery to try to remove tumors, she was in the IC unit, and she called for me. They all called me down there, and I walked in, and she couldn't talk regularly. I mean, she was garbled all the time because her voice was now going. But I walked into the ICU unit, and I said, "You called me. What's going on here?" And she sat up in bed and talked to me like you and I are talking right now.
Mm.
And she said, "I want to tell you something right now. I had a meeting with Jesus, and he promised me that he'd promised something for me, and I want you to know about it. And she told me that she was promised that she would be kept alive until her daughter graduated high school. And she said, I don't want you to tell anybody about it. I just wanted you to know. And when I said, okay, I will keep it a secret, she just literally laid back in bed and couldn't make sense talking anymore. 2 months later, my oldest daughter graduated high school. My ex-wife at that point, had driven the car over with all the kids in it. Her boyfriend wasn't there. We were just doing it together. Went through the graduation, came back to my house, had dinner to celebrate the graduation. And at the end of the dinner, my ex-wife got really sick, went back to bed. And my daughter needed to drive her home. And on the way out the door, she took me aside and she said, I told you he was going to promise me something. He keeps his word, Bob. I want you to remember that. So, yeah, very powerful. And so she died August of 2008. And my youngest was 10 and my oldest was going to college at 18. And they were both now moving. Now they came to live with me full time. So, and I will tell you, bottom of my heart right now, I miss her more now than ever. We had a rough life, but at the end of it, we were pretty close together the last year she was alive. We were pretty close, but it really was centered around cancer. And we were never alone for some reason. She had come over to my house and said, if I beat this cancer, we need to get back together again. Nobody takes care of me. Nobody takes care of me like you. Mm-hmm. I said, really? And my partner was sitting there and I looked over to him and I looked at her and I said, well, what are we going to do about him? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we all had a good laugh, but we didn't have the time to talk about what happened because it was all about cancer. And I needed, and I didn't really know that I needed that then because it was all just one tragedy after another and one panic to the next and one emotion to the next and ambulances, hospitals, and all of it. And her boyfriend didn't want me to be around anyway, but I never got back. I never had the chance to go back and apologize to her what I put her through. And during the whole time of those 2 years, she inherited half of the money that we both had accumulated over the years. It wasn't a ton of money, but it was a lot. And she plowed through her half, all of it in 2 years. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. Just plowed through it. And my oldest daughter basically was given free access to the bank account and was living high on the hog. And it just all came crashing down at the last part. I mean, when the kids came to live with me, she was bankrupt.
Was some of that money going to medical expenses, or was it just,
I'm talking about vacations, cars.
Gotcha. So the spending essentially continued even during that period of time. Okay.
Oh yeah, my kids were told, "Hey, go out for the night, do something. Here's a couple of $100. Go take your friends." The youngest one, go around the corner to 7-Eleven at 8 years old, because the boyfriend's coming over, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So. But you know what? I'm not judging any of that. All I'm just saying is that I never got the chance. And there was a rift between my ex-wife and my oldest daughter because of all the money. Because in my ex-wife's viewpoint, she was stealing from her. And I went through all the bank accounts and all the rest of it with her. And I said, she didn't steal all this money from you. You're telling her to go get it. And there was a battle. And I asked her several times at the end of her life to get my oldest daughter there and forgive her for this. Give her your forgiveness before you're dead so she doesn't live the rest of her life with this. And she never did that. She never did that.
It sounds like a lot of unhealed or unconcluded business in the family as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I have gone back now to all the old sister-in-laws and brother-in-laws on her side of the family, and actually, I had the last of those meetings last week. Um, I have one of my sister-in-laws that was a really strong influence on the wrong side of all this. We got together for a cup of coffee, and I said, "Look, we can talk about a lot of stuff today. Number one, I'm not going to apologize for being gay. I'm not going to apologize for a choice I didn't make. But I need to apologize to you for all of the pain and the anguish and the hurt that I caused all of you and the chaos that I brought to the table. I don't need you to accept my apology, but I want you to hear from my mouth how apologetic I am for what I put you all through. And every time I've done this with family members, I think we're on better terms, but it's really not going to change. But I wish I had that time to go back to my ex-wife and for her and I to have just a meeting, just the two of us. And I can at least, I wanted to say that to her. And I think it's so important for the gay spouse that comes out of these marriages to go back and not apologize of who they are. They need to apologize for what they did.
Even if there's, understandable in many ways, extenuating circumstances, the chaos that results is pretty extensive sometimes.
I mean, I've been urged to write a book, but I don't want to do so because I don't want to embarrass my daughters. I don't want the black cars to show up, let's say, from the drug world. Mm-hmm. But, I don't need to share that story.
I can see the Netflix series right now,
Yeah, they're going to film it at my coffin. So, yeah. No, I don't want to do, part of me wants to do it. I don't want to really do it because I don't need to expose this out, all these facts. But I will say this to the younger people in the world, you live in a more accepting world these days. There's no excuse for you to hide behind this kind of curtain anymore.
Yeah.
And it's not because you want to accomplish something in your life and have this Ozzie and Harriet life. You need to make a decision and not be a coward to not hurt other people. Because I was a coward for years and I didn't have the courage to become somebody I didn't want on a newsreel, and end up, being blasted on TV as I'm one of those guys that hangs out at the gay bars,
Do you think that, I realize that the chemsex and the meth and the sex parties, et cetera, on one hand is, something that's fun to do and entertaining and feels good. But do you think that for a lot of men in your situation that masks a deep discontent with life? And it just seems to me like it's a way of trying to outrunning the truth that's gunning for you.
What, the meth?
The meth and the whole scene, the chemsex scene and all of that.
Oh, it's not, you know what? I mean,
or maybe it's not that deep.
It's not deep at all. This is all about just getting hornier than Max.
Yeah.
This is 10 times horny. Okay.
Yeah.
Do a little meth, get your clothes off and get at it.
I know you said that when we talked before, I think you had said something like, I'll never forgive myself for what I caused my ex-wife. Do you feel like you still live with the regret? Do you feel like you still carry that pain?
I feel guilty. You know what? I mean, my current partner, after my other relationships, I have a marvelous partner at this point in the game that loves my kids. And he is very different than I am, but is all about other people, not himself. My partner says to me, Tom, you have a lot of gay guilt. And you know what? I guess I really do. I mean, I think I have gay guilt not because of I'm gay, because I didn't I was a coward not being true to myself. And I covered it all up for what I thought to be the goals from my religious faith that are what you need to do, and everything else needs to be just, walked away from. Um, but most of my guilt is not because of that. My guilt is because I was guilty of hiding it, and I'm guilty of all the pain and the anguish I caused so many people because I hid it.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
really, I just feel so bad. And you know what? I'm 68 years old now, and when you go through a life like this and your life changes, it's not all about me anymore. My life is more others focused. Um, Other people are more important than me. I don't have to prove anything to anybody. But yeah, I mean, I have to get rid of that guilt. Somebody gave me a really good piece of advice last week. They said, "Stop tripping over what's behind you."
I'm a believer, or a hopeful believer, I guess, in the idea that where there is remorse, there is redemption. And there isn't a person of us alive who isn't, if they couldn't, go back and do the hit the redo button, wouldn't have done
Yeah, but you know what?
something or several somethings differently. Yeah.
I didn't agree to do this because I'm looking for a pity party. Okay,
Right. And this is not about forcing you
no,
into a corner to
no.
self-flagellate. Right. Yeah. For some kind of.
I mean, I'm here to help give advice to people that are going through this. That is, street level sense stuff. Some of it's going to be blunt and some of it's going to be honest because I know the story. I know how it goes. But there are also advice for those of the gay people coming out of the closet and causing the destruction of these relationships. And that is that, I hear this so many times. There's a couple of Facebook pages of especially men that come out of the closet, and it's all I hear all the time is, "I'm now my authentic self." You know what? You mean
Mhm.
you weren't living an authentic life when you were having your kids and a family? This is bullshit. Okay, you were living your authentic life all the way along. That's an excuse. That's an absolute excuse to come out and suddenly out of nowhere, oh, now I'm flying rainbow flags. You're selling off to the glitter parties.
Well, when you say, that's an excuse, you were always living your authentic life. Can you say more about that? Because I think, from the straight spouse perspective, you're going, yeah, you weren't. Does that mean you weren't authentic with us? And now all of a sudden, as you say, you're part of the glitter party. You
But you're
are
not being
authentic. Like,
you're not being authentic when you're hiding everything. That doesn't make sense to me.
okay, how
That's your authenticity. You're hiding
is the
stuff.
hide? Is the hide? Oh, so the truth is you're hiding, and that's the authentic truth is you're hiding.
Yeah.
Is that? Yeah.
Everybody say,
Okay.
"Oh yeah, but no, I'm living authentically because I'm gay." What is that? What do you get a license to do? See, when you come out of a marriage with a family with kids, you don't get a hall pass.
Hmm.
You don't get an excuse to walk away from the responsibilities that you created in this world.
Hmm.
That soon to be ex-wife, those kids, you need to still be a dad.
So you're saying you don't get a pass to say that that was somehow inauthentic.
No, that's no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
That's crap.
Hmm.
Okay, you created a family, you supported them, all the rest of it. They need to be taken care of. You know, your ex spouse who's straight needs to be driving this, not you. And you need to make sure they're taken care of and that your kids are taken care of, because whether you're straight or gay, your kids need to see a legitimate human being as a father.
Hmm.
Okay. And no, your kids and your ex come first, not a glitter party and going to the white party. Sorry.
Yeah. The white parties. Yes. Do you feel like? Do you ever feel like you just want to shake some of the baby gays and say, um, you know, don't neglect your wife and your family?
No, I would tell them right to their face, "You're neglecting your family and your kids don't want to see you. What are you causing to do that? You know what? First of all, kids are more resilient than everybody thinks. They are. The kids are resilient. They can accept their parent being gay. It's really not a big deal. Okay, it's the parents who make it a big deal. You know, organized religion make that's a big deal. No, they need to be able to be fathers or mothers or whatever it is. Okay, but and they need to be able to take their kids and help grow them up. You know, you need to be going to the let's just say the football games instead of to the glitter party. If you want a boyfriend or you want a girlfriend, make sure they come to the footballs, not the glitter party. So how do you just I was part of all of it. I'm just not. Well, you're living a lifestyle. Really, what's that involve? Being a parent? I'm sorry, I can get pretty mad
Well,
about this stuff.
no, well, I think hopefully some of our audience who are listening are hearing you say this, saying that you don't get that the gay spouse doesn't get a pass automatically for the
No,
behavior, not for being gay, not for being as you said something that you can't choose or pick, but for the for the sometimes destruction that happens on the way out of the closet and while in the closet. And I think that the acknowledgement of cowardice on your part is actually going to, I think, be very validating for our straight partners and spouses who are listening. In these last couple of minutes, Tom, knowing that today it's really refreshing, I will say. We've interviewed in the past on this podcast multiple lesbian partners, gay husbands, etc., to come on and have and share their perspective of what was going on for them at the time that they got married or to an opposite sex partner. And I think that a lot of those interviews have always sort of left a little something wanting in terms of just a flat out acknowledgement. And we've done a couple interviews with Ryan King where there was just an honest reckoning and acknowledgement. And I think that that's another reason why we had you on today too, because I heard you just say, you know, I I caused this and I'm responsible for that. And then also holding other gay men responsible for what happens on their way out of the closet. So if you could kind of sum up in a word or two, a sentence or two for
there
the
needs
straight
to be an
spouses listening.
apology.
Yeah. Yeah.
There needs
Thank
to
you.
be an apology. The
Yeah.
straight spouse needs to have the guts to look at their gay ex and say, when you're through the drama of all of this, I want to know when you want to sit in front of me and apologize for everything that you put me through.
Mm, mhm,
I don't think there's
mhm,
anything wrong asking for it.
mhm.
But I have a
Yeah.
bigger message for the gay spouse doing this. You owe it to your ex to apologize for the hiding and putting her through or him through all of this and basically destroying their life dreams of what they wanted out of a relationship. It's your
Mm,
fault.
mm.
It's your fault. And you know what? You're not going to be able to heal it, but they need to hear it. And you know what? Don't say it until they really honestly mean it,
Mm, mhm. Yeah.
because it took me a long time,
Yeah.
a long time.
Tom, I think that that is the perfect note to end on. And I want to thank you for coming on today, for your frankness, for your vulnerability, for your honesty. I do believe that there are going to be some straight spouses out there who are going to appreciate that acknowledgement, even as
Oh,
they
the ones who
couldn't.
don't, I mean, you
Yeah.
can always make a dartboard of me.
Well, we appreciate your will. And as I said, today was not about bringing you on and backing you into some kind of corner to self-flagellate for our audience appreciation or amusement.
No.
But we do appreciate your
I
willingness
hope I help
to.
some of you all out there. I really do.
It's kind of like, on one hand, I'll just say this before we close. I always feel it's a little bit tricky to expect or wait for an apology from your partner, because most of the time that's, for a lot of the people who are listening, is just never going to come. And so it's kind of like you need it, but you are never going to get it, and you have to figure out a way to give yourself closure. But my intention with having you on today is kind of like an apology by surrogate. Like sometimes it's just nice and helpful to hear someone say, "Hey, I get it. This was not cool. And you deserve an apology and you deserved better." And so for you coming on today to deliver that message, I am very grateful. And I hope our listeners are grateful. And I believe that some of them will be for that message. So thank you again, Tom, for just a really lovely conversation today.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's the least I could do.
Thank you. I want to thank our listeners for tuning in today. Be on the lookout for new episodes as they drop. There's only a few more left in 2024 coming your way, including this one. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. You can find us wherever you get yours. This is a friendly reminder that the views of the host, yours truly, are not necessarily the views of Our Path or its board of directors. I want to thank our engineer and editor, Drew, at Play Audio Agency in Cincinnati, Ohio. And until next time, this is Kristen reminding you, keep using your voice.